With silver spiking upwards, there's going to be undoubtedly some new stackers rushing into the hobby, but many of them are going to be making some very costly mistakes. And I think with the recent upward swing in the silver price and the potential for new stackers to enter in, this is probably a good time to revisit or even educate those who are new or are thinking about starting their stacking journey and the mistakes that you should avoid. So let's break everything all down here in this video. Here are or at least my, top 5 stacking mistakes that I see and how you can avoid them. So let's go. Hi everybody, and welcome back to yet another video. So let's get right into what mistakes I personally see new stackers do and some of the more common ones as well. Now, I personally have made some of these mistakes, so I have some experience with this, but I do want to point out that in some ways, these aren't always necessarily mistakes, but they will be at the end of the decision-making process. But a lot of these things are just done because people just simply don't even consider it, or they're just simply unaware that this is something that could potentially happen when they're buying precious metals. So with that being said, let's start with the first one here, and that is chasing premiums without a purpose. Or another way to put it is just by blindly ignoring the premiums in the first place. Let's assume that a year from now, silver goes up even higher than it is now, and the mainstream media is hyping up precious metals like never before, and people who have never considered precious metals or just simply want to follow a trend and have no business being in this area to begin with are more likely than not going to ignore or just not understand the premiums that we pay for just 1 ounce of silver. And when the demand spikes, there's going to be a strain on the supply to some degree, and we will see the premium shoot up on items just for that reason. I mean, dealers are also going to, cover their business costs and spread, so those premiums are going to go up from them as well. And of course, it's a business, there's things like that, of course, but it really comes down to supply and demand. But I'm not going to go down that road here, because at some point the premiums will go up when there's a hype. And that happened when I first got started. When I first got started back in 2021, anybody who remembers these American Silver Eagles like you see here were almost double the spot price. And now the premiums are much lower at just a few bucks over spot, for at least for me at my local coin shop. And another thing to consider with premiums are the type of coins too. Buffalo rounds are going to be much cheaper in premiums than, let's say, the American Silver Eagles. Generic silver alone is generally cheaper than any sovereign coins or any government coins. So if you were to buy a full tube of each, the premiums paid on the American Silver Eagles alone would actually let you buy an extra 1 to 2 ounces of Buffalo rounds instead. So to maximize your spending ability, generic rounds are going to be the best option if you're trying to get as much silver as possible. One last thing is the taxes. Now, since I'm in the US, I'm only going to talk about that. And if you live in a different country, please do your own research on those things, because I'm not versed in that. But here in the US, depending on where you live, your state may require you to pay taxes on these items as well. So in a way, it's like an additional premium on top of the original premium. So you'll need to consider that too when buying. The second mistake that I tend to see is not understanding liquidity. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean buying things that are going to be difficult to sell later on down the road. Now, there are so many different choices you can pick from when buying silver, because realistically, it all comes down to recognizability and reputation. And it can feel a little overwhelming having to choose between all the different bars, coins, rounds, designs, etc. However, I think that if you stick with what's most popular and what is easy to offload, you're not ever going to run into many issues. And some of those are going to be the American Silver Eagles, the Buffalo rounds, Canadian Maple Leafs are just a few examples of the more common and easy liquid or more easily liquid types of silver that you can have. And typically dealers in both in person and online are going to market those up anyway, since they want to move the inventory out. But if you're able to, go speak with your local coin shop dealer. They're going to help you out. At least they should. If they have good intentions, they're going to answer all the questions that you have and steer you into the right areas. Now, mistake number 3, and that's going to be poor storage practices. And I talked about this on a video before, and I'm not going to go too much into it, but if you do want to learn more about that, go ahead and watch that video. I'll put it up on the top right corner for you guys. But storing your silver is just as important because you want to preserve the quality of them as best as possible. See, the thing is, silver interacts with the air chemically, unlike gold. Exposing it to moisture, air, etc. will cause the silver to tarnish or even tone. But toning can actually be an attractive feature, and some people actually like it, but the tarnishing part, where it really turns black and ugly, will happen, and it can lower the resale value later on. But keeping them in tubes or their capsules, whatever that they come in, or even in the plastic sealing, is going to be essential to maintaining the purity of that stack. Mistake number 4 is trying to time the market perfectly. Now, this is where I think a lot of new stackers are going to get burned. The experienced stackers know how boring silver can be, but at the same time, it can be an unhinged teenager with a raging emotional fit. Silver is way more volatile than gold, and when the prices go up, they go up, and when the prices go down, they really go down. So people who are going to be coming in at these highs are going to be very upset, and you're going to sell off everything when the prices drop. And since most people are coming in at that time, they're going to view it as an investment. And because, again, it's the talk of the town. And you've heard me say this on this channel, and I'll say it again. Silver is not a typical, quote, investment. It's not a investment piece. It's a long-term piece. You need to focus more on how much you have versus how much it's worth. And dollar cost averaging is just going to be a great strategy to use to combat any price volatility, and it will allow you to offset those lows and highs and smooth out the average purchase price. But waiting for the next high or the dip is going to be impossible to determine. You can't beat Mr. Market and his unstable and unpredictable mood swings. Finally, mistake number 5 is falling for the hype. Now, I know this will happen no matter what. Unfortunately, people will learn something about something they heard from a stranger in their latest Uber ride and drop everything that they have into that specific investment. And I'm sure there will be another story in the future about someone dumping their retirement savings into gold and silver only to have it be stolen by some, quote, trusted business that ended up scamming them. As attractive as it is, blindly following any hype, well, it's just going to hurt you in the long run. When watching videos from other channels and learning from the community and doing your own research is what's important here. And yes, we do want you to get involved in the hobby, but do it correctly and with good intent. My goal with this channel and videos like this is to assist new stackers on and promote the hobby with seasoned stackers at the same time. And finally, one last tip is a popular saying in the community, and that is, if you don't hold it, you don't own it. So don't just have it on paper, guys. Have it physically in hand and in person. But with that being said, those are my 5 mistakes that I think that new stackers make. Let me know what mistakes you think that are important for new stackers as well. And as always, I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye, guys.